What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for episode 113 of the Game Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Hello, everybody.
And we are back with another wall scroll.
Hello.
It's awesome.
Of course, we're here with Hermione's father, deadbeat as he is, because he never comes around. So sometimes I just have to show her this lovely picture and the pillow, because he's on the
Yes.
pillow too. But yeah, so Shomaru is a deadbeat. He doesn't come around.
Terrible. I don't know why everyone likes him after knowing the type of person he is. I guess that's the bad boy thing. That's what that is, that appeal.
I mean, yeah. It's just it's he's avoidant, and he doesn't want you. Like, and so you just have to keep chasing him because you know that somewhere inside, like, he really does want love and he's capable of it and deserving. He's just hurt. And so you just keep like, he'll come around. He'll come around.
I can fix him.
I can fix him. He's going to live forever anyway. And so you just keep.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, he's just.
Eternal toxicity is crazy.
Toxic.
It's crazy.
I can handle it, but I don't know about these other girls. I don't know what I mean, I know what I see in him.
Terrible. That's a fire scroll, though. Shout
real,
out to you.
This
Shout out to
literally
you.
is. And, if you guys are cool, you knew all the websites to get them off of, too, back in the day, because clearly these are not licensed.
No. Nope. Not at all. But that's some of the best art. Like when you go to the conventions and they have like the little art area, you get, people to make whoever.
Yeah.
And, you get your t-shirts and stuff like that. And usually it's a kind of a cohesive thing. Like the people who make this stuff, they kind of know. Although the last few, like earlier this year, I think Crunchyroll was kind of like crunching down. No pun intended, was crunching down on this sort of thing. I believe they were like stopping people from selling certain merch. And now granted, it could be because they were bought by Sony. I don't know. But, people were feeling a way about it because it's kind of always been that way. And they legally can, because unless you make a parody, like if you make it like, I don't know, Naruto fighting Iron Man or something like that. Like it's not something that's that's real.
Right.
Or a joke or whatever. But if you make just like a dope wall scroll, they might, hey, take it down. You know what I mean?
This is definitely a screenshot.
Yeah.
I can't remember the number of the episode, but I do remember this because it's actually a wider shot. Like there's more people in here, and they're not because they don't need to be right now.
I'm not mad at it. Hey, hustle. Get your hustle on. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
So today we are back with another dope episode to talk about a bunch of different stuff that have nothing to do with one another other than the fact that we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. And the first thing we want to talk about was the new Dynasty Warriors video game that was announced not too long ago. It's Dynasty Warriors, I think Origins is called, or Origin. Yep. And it's interesting because it looks like Dynasty Warriors. If you play Dynasty Warriors, you know kind of what to expect, but it also looks like it might be a little different. One of the things that they've, outside of the fact that it visually looks better, is that the player's going to be playing a nameless protagonist, and it's more story focused. So being that it's Origins, it starts at the beginning of the Three Kingdom, conflict or whatever. And there'll be moments where you can, trade in or play as some of the different generals and whatnot. But for the most part, you're playing as this nameless person because they want to show you, like, from a lower standpoint, what's happening. So you're not leading the charge all the time. You're kind of like just the fight is going on and you're there. You're one of the soldiers. I think that's kind of interesting. Right. I think that's interesting to showcase a really big conflict from someone who's not as important.
Yeah.
Because you're always, in these games, you play the hero, you play or the villain, depending on the type of game. It's like GTA or whatever, you play the villain. But in this case, you're playing someone who has a smaller role and, I guess who will eventually become important.
Yeah.
And so you get to see the effects, or I assume, because I only seen a little bit of gameplay, the effects of what's happening around you. One of the first, when they showed the gameplay trailer, not just the announcement trailer, but the gameplay one, they showed a person that was trying to steal food, I believe, and they ran into one of the yellow ribbon turban
Yellow turban.
soldier. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and they were gonna, they were in the middle of a conflict between two groups,
Mm-hmm.
and they started fighting, and they were just there, and they were like, "Oh, are you part of this group?" Like because you're taking stuff and doing things you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I believe the yellow turban guys they're the rebellion, right? They're the people that
Yeah.
are fighting back. So uh you end up being saved by the nameless person, and then they're like, you know what, you should come with us, because when the other group gets here, they're not going to believe that you had nothing to do with this, essentially.
Mm.
And then they kind of go from there. And so I think that's really cool, because like, oh, we get to see from the ground level, like how this rebellion starts, why you're joining the rebellious side, and potentially coloring who the villains are in
Mm-hmm.
a unique way. And I thought that was pretty cool, because typically Dynasty Warriors doesn't excite me anymore, because they kind of play the same after
Same
you've
game.
played, except for I think it was like 5 or 6, the one that was like open world. I don't know what they were trying to do
9.
there.
I think that
It
was
was
9.
9. It was 9.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how far gone removed I am from this particular series. Especially once when Ninja Warrior came out,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So like I'm removed, but I do remember them kind of all playing the same. They had like little, we added co-op or we added online or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't really big changes. Oh, we got horses now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So to see something a little bit more narrative based, I think is
Yeah.
really cool, especially considering that these games kind of start with you. They start as if you know the story
History.
already.
Yeah.
That if you know the history, and I didn't. Not gonna hold you. I didn't. It wasn't until years later when I
Mm-hmm.
actually figured out who was who and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're starting from there, the fact that it's called Origins, like we're starting over.
Mm-hmm.
I have high hopes for this. I might have to check this one out when it drops.
I'm I'm excited. I mean, I'm not playing, but that's
Right,
and I say that so simply. Dynasty Warriors is my favorite game.
right.
Like, it's the one game I know I can play to start to finish. I can win. Might get hard, but like I can figure it out. And then typically after winning, then I'm like, oh well, I I want to know how to get the like stuffs. You know how there's like what do they call it? Like missions,
Right.
and then you go online, and then of course some smart people have done all the walkthroughs, and they're like, oh, you actually have to kill 300 people in the first 4 minutes for the sword to actually be eligible, and if you don't
Right.
bust open the second um barrel
Yeah.
and get the dim sum from the barrel, then you're not going to be able to open the chest that has the MacGuffin that opens the thing that lets the river water come down, which then you go into the water and find the spear. Only if you're riding
Right.
red hair. You have to ride red hair to do it, though. If you
Exactly.
don't ride red hair, the game's over.
And it's like, oh, did we forgot? You have to unlock this character and use this character while this is happening, or it fails. It just whatever. I know there was a couple that was also like random, like if this character, because like you'll be fighting and a mission will happen. So like
Uh,
there, submissions within a big mission or a level,
yeah.
and sometimes a character like a general will spawn,
Uh-huh.
and he's not necessarily supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, if what's his face spawns, go attack him immediately, because he's only going to be on
Immediately.
the ground or in the war for like 3 minutes. If he
Yep.
leaves, that's it. You know what I'm saying? But you got to do that. But you still got to win. If you
Yeah.
lose, it was
Then it was, yeah. Those things killed me because it was like, that you've already won everything else. Like, that this is what you have to do. And you
right,
can't, it's like, how are you have to do this in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So if you don't bust by Nezha and Susano in Warriors Orochi, you're never gonna make, it's crazy. Anyway, but I love that game. And I have not played any Dynasty Warriors since I don't remember. I don't remember what was the last one I played. Obviously, I have not touched my Xbox since 2022. I don't
I think
remember.
so. I think about around there. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
were playing Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
I
so
think that
I
was the last
finally,
game you were playing.
finally
Yeah.
finished Assassin's Creed, and it was making me nauseated, and it was just too much work. And then I didn't have my TV anymore. I gave my TV to my sister as a gift, so like I can't play it anyway. And I don't know where it is. It's in a box somewhere. So besides the point. So I don't have a game system at the moment to even play on, so I'm not doing it. However, this kind of excites me because it's a callback to Dynasty Warriors 5. Um,
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors 5 had 3 games. It had the main game, Empires, I believe, and then the game Extreme, which is the one I was it called Dynasty Warriors Extreme? It doesn't matter. It was
I think so.
called, yeah, and it was because they just launched 3 games, just crazy. And that one was the one where you could play as a side character that you just made up. You just made up your
Yeah.
own person, you could build them, and then you just played in the war. And your
Yeah.
biggest thing was to play missions. You could be a traitor, because if you are fighting for Wu, let's say that you're fighting for Wu, and then literally Zhuge Liang is going to come and try to see you because he saw how well you did in this last battle. And he's going to send you a letter, and he's going to be like, hey, come join my side. And then you're going to be like, should I do that? Whatever. Like, and you get to like role play, and it's kind of fun. And I remember when I was doing that, I didn't know because I'm not good at video games, and I didn't know actually how to do it. So like you would play, and then it's like you have to lead everybody. Oh, by the way, in this game you have to read, right? You have to play
Yeah.
the game and read what's on the screen.
Very quickly. It's almost annoying when you don't know. Because when I first started playing Dynasty Warriors, all I did, I was beating people up left and right, like because the minions, they're weak
Yeah,
comparatively to you. So I would just
yeah.
beat them up, and it'd be like, you failed. I'm like, how did I fail? I was
How'd I
killing
fail?
everyone,
Everyone's dead.
And it's like,
How'd I fail?
oh, you have to go and defend the gate, or you have to
Yeah,
go and
yeah,
assist this person, or
yeah,
get them over here, make sure they don't die.
yeah,
And so yeah, it took a little while to
yeah.
understand, a little
It
bit.
definitely did. There was a little curve. It's not just hack and slash. You really do have to like learn stuff. There is strategy to
Yes.
it. But I have the same. This seems really interesting. I mean, I'm still waiting for the movie. The
Oh
second
goodness.
part of the movie.
Right, that was just one. I don't know this coming. Like the first one was, and that we actually talked about that on a previous cast.
Yeah.
The Netflix. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna make a sequel to that. I don't know how well it
Who
did.
knows? Maybe they
Um,
already did. We don't know.
maybe, maybe it was such a interesting.
It's
You know
funny
it.
because they already had Red Cliffs. Red Cliffs was actually a good movie,
Right.
and like what was cute about Red Cliffs was the one part where you had the guy who was actually the traitor, and he was trying to get home to his well, he wasn't trying to get home, he was trying to go back to the other side.
Yeah.
And then the one friend was like, he wants to just go home to his mom. It wasn't even a guy. I think it was a girl dressed up as a boy. Like I thought that was hilarious. That was a fun movie. I like Red Cliff.
Yeah.
That was good.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing more about it. Chloe has been showing gameplay and been talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Dynasty Warriors was already niche to begin with,
Yeah.
and so them, trying to appeal to a bigger audience kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I'm curious to any of the changes that they make and what's going to be happening. I like the fact that in the gameplay trailer they showed you commanding troops, and not just like, because typically when you command, it's like go over here, like follow me to this place. I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave you here and I'm gonna go over there.
Yeah.
Whereas this, they were like sieging, so he was commanding them to like okay, fire, and they're like showing all these arrows are flying at the enemies and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it seemed a little bit more tactical. They also showed a bit of the trailer where they showed the nameless person talking to the generals, and they're like
Mhm.
trying to plan their attack. So there's like a map on a table,
Yeah.
and it's like, should we go here? Should we do this? And I think that would be really cool too, where you can add some tactical
Yeah.
mechanics prior to the actual event or the match
Yeah.
happening. And I thought that was really cool too.
Wow.
So I'm
That
looking forward
sounds
to it.
like yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It really does sound like they took Empires and they took Extreme and they put it into one game.
Yeah, it's like they're
Yeah.
learning from their past releases,
Yeah.
and as long as it's not like 9, it should be decent for the most part. And visually, it looks great. Visually, it looks great.
I don't know what they
Um,
were doing with 9.
The next thing, speaking of, we don't know what people are doing. The next thing we want to talk about was Raygun at the Olympics, and
Why?
I want I we were kind of deciding whether or not we were going to talk about this because everyone has talked about it, and apparently Rachel Gunn, Raygun, is getting harassed online. I don't want to say harassed. The way that she said it was like she's getting a lot of attention, and none of it's positive. And
I
so she's
mean,
saying that she's depressed and she needs a vacation afterwards. And I can only imagine what that would be like on a grand stage, like the Olympics all around the world. People are looking at you and what you're doing and how that might feel. Um, I did, before I say how I feel about her performance, though, I do want to add a little bit of context because there was a bunch of rumors about how she got to where she was and all this other stuff. Looking into it, and different media sources have looked into her background. She didn't steal her way into the Olympics. She didn't bribe anyone. None of that stuff happened. She the talent pool for Australia's team was small, and the competitions, like they show her like her finals and stuff like that. She's actually better than what she was at the Olympics. Like seeing her dance in other, she's not great. Not gonna hold you, not great, but it wasn't what we saw at the Olympics. It's better than that. I can at least say that, right? And so what ended up happening was the talent pool was small. She ended up beating the person that was going to go to the Olympics, instead of her. And when she got there, her words, she wanted to be as unique as possible. She has she went to school, or she wrote a thesis about basically masculinity in hip hop. Is underscore breaking, and how a lot of it is built up on masculinity and it's dominated by men, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm paraphrasing. She wanted to kind of showcase how different it can be, and coming up with her own moves and stuff like that, and kind of, I don't know, create a narrative in and of itself. Like one of the things she said was like women, essentially white women, are not. Uh, I don't. It's hard to say because like it's hard to like really, because it's a whole thesis, and I don't fully agree. I don't know about Australia and their scene, but I do know like there's a lot of women who break dance. There's a lot of women who dance. Period. Red Bull. If you never watched Red Bull's BC1, they have tournaments every year, and it's packed with people. It's not just black people. It's not just white people. Asian people, people from all sorts of countries. Women especially are there, and they're repping for their countries or for themselves, and it looks great. And so the idea that is like, I at the same time I do know that there are more men doing it, but it's never, from what I can see, and granted I'm a guy, it's never been like you can't be here because you're a woman. It's more so like you can't be here if you can't dance. That's it.
that's
And
it.
so, but it was kind of like her, like a part of her thesis or a part of her manifesto or whatever, to like showcase how women can be different and can still flourish in this environment, right? And so she wanted to do these unique moves to showcase her originality. My problem here, outside of how she went about it and where she went about it, being the Olympics, is that being original says doesn't do much if you're not operating within the realm of your genre of dance. For instance, I can be a great tap dancer, and I'm like, you know what? I want to be original. And so I start doing the Harlem Shake. That doesn't work because I'm not using my feet. It's not the same as like Fred Astaire, like tapping down, tapping and then like doing the splits and getting back up, and or maybe a backflip or whatever. And he's still on beat with the tapping and all this other stuff. Like that makes sense because he's still using his feet, and he's not trying to do the bunny hop or the kangaroo hop,
Or the alligator, or the
or like
windmill, or the lawnmower,
this is not the place where you do the sprinkler or the cabbage patch. This is not
or
what that's. You
yeah,
don't do that.
other
And
lawn tools, garden tools.
right, and like as someone who is a big fan of breaking, just hip hop head in general, Like I look at like when, and granted these are men, but I look at like Mr. Wiggles or Crazy Legs, when they wanted to make a new move, it was within the realm of the genre. So like for instance, Mr. Wiggles wanted to do, he heard someone doing the backslide but on their knees. If for people who don't know, the backslide is basically the moonwalk. Doing the moonwalk, but they were doing it on their knees. And like he was like, "Oh, that's an interesting thing. I didn't know you could do that. So let me try to do something to that effect." And so he actually invented moves where you're actually gliding around on the floor, but you're using your knees as opposed to your feet. It still fits the genre of hip hop. It's still, you're doing a move just with a different body part. Whereas what she was doing was not hip hop. It just wasn't. It's not hip hop at all.
Wasn't even
And
dancing.
I don't. Yeah, it looked like what someone does when they're making fun of breaking, like someone like, this is probably a move. It's not, but it's probably, this is probably something that they would do or whatever, right? And then you did it at the Olympics, and that like her explanation was like, I knew I wasn't gonna win these against these women who are like powerhouses and doing all this other stuff, the flips on their arms and heads and whatever, the spins. I'm not gonna be able to compete with that, so I just have to be original. And it's like, you can do that. Just be original with your top rocking, or original with your windmills, or original with your whatever. You weren't doing that. You were making, it seemed like you were making up stuff as you go. And the response now, and then also a lot of people who are watching this aren't vested in hip hop like we are. And so it's very like, there's a lot of people who didn't want the Olympics to showcase breakdancing, period.
Yeah.
So when you're doing these things, people are highlighting like, see, this is why we shouldn't have breaking right here. They totally skipped over the fact that there was some phenomenal women in the competition. The men were amazing. Like you just skipped over all of these things because of this one person. And it's like, I feel bad for her mentally. Like, I understand, the internet can be cruel. This is a huge scale. Like, this is international. You're known internationally for that performance. I get it. At the same time, I just want to be like, for future reference, if it ever comes back to the Olympics, because it's not going to be in the 2028 Olympics. They already said that prior to this event, so it's not her fault, people.
To blame her because it's easier. Just easier. In all honesty, I don't mind us, time heisting the Infinity Stones and making it so that it is her fault.
Tess is on another. I was trying to explain where the discrepancy comes in with what she was trying to do and what actually happened, and cutting her some slack. She didn't rig the Olympics to get, the event that was right before the Olympics to get there. She didn't cut out anybody. It just was a small dance pool. She just happened to be the best there. Because when I saw her husband, who was also a breaker, I was like, oh, you okay? It's just not, you guys just aren't great at this. But it's okay, it's all right. You're just not great. You know what I mean? And so I don't think necessarily that she shouldn't be able to compete. I just think when she got there, I think her best foot forward would have been, even if the moves were repeated, just to do those things, do a routine that makes sense for the genre. No one is ever going to do a bunny hop while breaking. I'm telling you, it's just not a thing. I've been watching dance competitions since I was like 4. It's just not. It's not a thing that happens. It's just, you know what I mean? So
The Shomaru calls bullshit on her. He does. The Shomaru would be like, this is literally, think about him. Because he's always trying to beat the shit out of his brother. Like, he's just like, you don't deserve to live because you are not a strong demon. You don't deserve to live because you're not demon enough. Like, you're just not good enough, so just die. That's his idea. And he's like, and I can beat you with one hand type thing. He's like, you might have taken my arm, but I can kill you with the other type. Okay, so he calls bullshit. He calls bullshit on her, and this is why. Because the reason why there's no sympathy here, all publicity is good publicity. That's what people say. So 7.5 billion people now know her that didn't know her
That is
a
true.
couple weeks ago. She knew what she was doing. You cannot tell me that this person didn't know what she was doing. This is a PhD. This is somebody who writes papers and does research on this very topic. And who also has a very I don't find it interesting, but who has her own interesting opinion on whatever dissertation she wrote and whatever papers that she has published
Right.
talking about women in hip hop, white women in hip hop, blah, blah, blah. You knew what you were doing. You're going to go write another paper on this. You're going to go do some TED Talks. You're going to go do some podcasts.
Yeah, potentially.
This is intentional. All of it is intentional because you already knew you weren't Olympic level. You already knew you weren't good enough. This is not one of those situations. You know, I knew I wouldn't win.
Yeah, it's readily apparent.
You decided that you wanted to go to the Olympics to show that you wouldn't win. Where'd I do that at? Because in some countries, when you do that, you go back and get shot. We never see you again. They were making jokes about this. There was like voiceovers on other like different people doing sports, and they're like, you know, we're never gonna see this person again. Yeah, we're never gonna see this person again. Man, I really, really like. And it's in comedy, but it's sad because it's coming from something that has some sort of truth to it.
Right,
Like
right.
it's something that people have said. They're like, hey, by the way, this person's gonna go back to their country, and they are going to disappear, and they might be replaced with somebody who looks like them. Like type stuff. Like you'll there are what my point is what I'm saying is that she clearly knows nothing like that's happening to her. There's
Right.
only a benefit. She can only benefit from this situation. All these people are talking about her. People are writing articles about her. Every news station is talking about her. Hip hop heads are talking about her. Snoop Dogg is talking about her. Everybody, come on. Everything is done with intention. This is not accidental. It's
I mean, it's
not.
definitely gonna, like you said, it's gonna, she's already been interviewed a few times.
Yeah.
So there is the plausibility that my status can be raised somehow if I write a book, if I do whatever. Like this is
Yeah.
something that could potentially benefit me. And like you said, we didn't. From what I understand, I didn't know too many breakers from Australia that were like big name, but it's like her name is above everybody now. Not for the right reason, but it's above everybody now, and that is something you can definitely capitalize off of. I will call BS though on the people who are saying like she's an inspiration to women or young girls who want to get into breaking or whatever. They're like, yeah, I can break too. No,
That's the Taylor Swift effect.
yeah,
That's literally the Taylor. No tea, no shade. All tea, all shade. No tea, no shade. But that's what they call the Taylor Swift effect. Like the BB effect. Like there's better. Sissy should be your or
yeah.
Cece, not Sissy. Cece should be your idol. Okay, like she's a teenager.
Yeah, there's better people. Like for one, there was better people like breaking during the Olympics.
Yeah.
There's people who do this. Like I said, Red Bull every year has multiple
Yeah.
dance competitions. Like there are young people who are doing this better. You know what I'm saying? Like
Not the
I
girl
I
dressed like Squid Games. Come
yeah,
on.
like I don't think she is. You don't need to be. The idea that someone who can be mediocre can also be the voice for someone is kind of, unless it's like, it's something when that happens, it's not something that we applaud. It's like,
Right.
oh, you're so bad at it and you failed upward that I could possibly do this too, is usually a joke. You know what I mean?
I don't want to
Like,
fail
oh, I could
upward.
be president if such and such can be president. Like you telling me a convicted criminal could be president? I
Yeah.
can totally be
I
president.
can
You know what
totally
I
do
mean?
it.
Like that's not a positive.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, you're turning something negative into a positive, but not in the way that's endearing to the person. Like that's not a
Yeah.
good thing. And so, no,
Yeah,
no,
no.
like
No.
that's a weird. Like I mean, if you want to be mediocre, cool.
Yeah.
And no offense to, like I don't dislike you, Raygun or anything like that. I don't, whatever. I thought it was hilarious when I saw it.
It was
Um,
hilarious. I was so
and
tired.
yeah, like I was like, eh.
I
And then I saw the other people breaking. I'm like, oh, they're doing a good job. I just
Right.
then how she's eclipsed everybody else, even the winners. She's
The
eclipsed the
winners, like, people
winners.
don't know, I mean, like, I'm mm. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And then like, I'm sorry. The extended amount of time bent over I don't know how the hat stayed on. I gotta ask her what her hat game is because she was on that floor really,
Yes.
really, like, grinding her head into the floor trying to do something, and I was like, "You look like a baby." You know how babies' torsos and their legs are the same length and, like, their heads are huge and they just, like,
Yeah,
dunk
it's
and
heavy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then they just head walk, you know?
Yes.
That's what I was like, l I was so confused, and then when it looked like something was about to happen, something didn't happen. It was like something, "Oh,
Yeah.
oh, she got down on the ground. Oh. Oh, no,
Oh,
no, no, she's about to flip." No.
is that the sprinkler? Like it was. Yeah, it was. Yep.
Like, "Oh, she posed, then she folded like a mattress," and then
I was really confused. I was like, "There's no way you think this is good." You like, and there's also a weird thing with like, because I've seen some other breakdancers who are actually good,
yeah.
who were trying to give her credit, like she's original, and it's like,
Oh, like the
but
person doing the
it's not good,
announcing?
right? It's like you're trying to be nice, is how I feel, and I don't know them, so maybe whatever, yeah, because I can't count how many times we've seen the windmill at any type of event, but the point being that just because you're original doesn't make it good. Like originally bad is a thing. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
started off bad. That's a thing. Like that's just having
Like,
originality, and that's why she didn't win. Like just having originality.
but and how is any of it original though? Like even this idea, because I remember the girl, the lady who was being the enunciate, whatever the job is, I don't know, play by play. Um and she was like, "Oh, looks like Raygun's doing some a little bit more artistic, being a little bit original here. Are you original because nobody else is doing these moves? Because otherwise
Apparently,
the kangaroo is not original. We knew what it was before you said it. The windmill's not original. We knew what it was. Maybe it's original because nobody used it in breakdancing, but you then slid on your knee. You did a whole bunch of moves that people know of that had no place in what you were doing.
yeah.
That's not
And she had some stuff
original.
that I've never seen as well. Not gonna lie. Like I don't know what that was, but yeah, it's like the stuff that the stuff that they were showcasing in the other breakers that were original was like, oh, this person like went one way and then spun the opposite way in slow motion. Like,
Right.
oh, I haven't seen that. Like it was like it still encompassed the genre. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like they did something unique within the confines of the style.
And
Like
none of
again,
the girls
ballroom
booty
dancing. You're
popped in
not
the air. I was still
right.
waiting for
Like you're
this. I
not
was like, what girls?
like if someone, and not to say that you can't, artistic expression is fine. If you choreograph something, you know,
Yeah.
for a play or whatever the case may be, and you're combining dances from different genres and putting it into one thing, that's cool. But it's a competition based on, for instance, if I look at the like locking competitions,
Mhm.
and then I look at the breaking competitions. There's things that the lockers are doing. This is all hip hop though. There's
Yeah.
things that the lockers are doing that the break dancers aren't doing because they're not going
Yeah.
to get points. They're not going to get points for that
Yeah,
because you're
exactly.
supposed to be doing this style of hip hop dance.
Yeah.
And so if I just start popping and locking when I'm supposed to be breaking, or if I start locking, or if I start whatever the case may be, and it's like, hey, you're supposed to be doing this. It's not a freestyle. If it was a freestyle, then okay, yeah, but you're supposed to be, we're trying to see the technical aspects of this. Are you doing these particular moves? uh are you able to, the physicality that comes with this type
Mhm.
of dance? Are you on beat? You know what I mean? Like she wasn't a lot of the
No.
times. Like, are you on beat? Are you able to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are things that you have to think about. There's several, and they had it at the Olympics. There's several categories that you have to kind of hit. Originality is one of them, but the others was the technical aspects. Are you freezing on time with the beat and able to hold that pose, whatever it is? Like there's things that they gave to them, musicality. There's things that they gave to them prior to you starting the event, and you only like it's like I'm just gonna be original. I mean, I guess you're different.
That's not even original. That's just breaking the rules. That's just a zero.
Right.
Like, and this is also why I mean, another topic is why I really was kind of upset. It's not that I'm upset that breakdancing is in the Olympics. I was very, very upset at how they put breakdancing in the Olympics. I was so upset because I don't know breakdancing to be this boring. Breakdancing has never been this boring to me. I grew up with breakdancers in my school. Literally just breakdancing after school, just hitting it on the I'm like, just sitting there. I got to catch the bus, but I'm not. I'm just going to stay after today because I'm going to hang out with all these people. Smith Chai, what up? Like, shout out to Smith Chai. Like, legit. Like, come on now. Like, I'm just saying, this was the most. I was so upset. I was literally just upset. Her other perform just in a general sense. It's not necessarily each performer. I was upset in a general sense. I was like, these can't be the best people in the world. Some of them are great. This can't be the best. This feels like the first season of American Idol where nobody knew the competition was happening. Mind you, first season of American Idol had some great people. It gave us Kelly Clarkson for crying out loud. Gave us, Justin Guarini, great singer. Come on now. Like, what are we doing? But nobody knew about it. That's why nobody got to go to tryouts. Okay.
Well, some of it was that too, because like some people didn't want to go to the Olympics because they were like they didn't think that it being so rigid that it would adhere to the elements of hip hop that they kind of came up on, and I kind of understand that. I kind of understand that, but then I would my pushback would be, what would be the difference between the Red Bull events that everyone goes to versus this one? The one thing I did think was interesting was the fact that they weren't allowed. None of the music was screened prior to them dancing, and so typically what happens is you get the music and you're like, I'm gonna come up with a routine based on the music that I'm hearing. This is all like, spur of the moment type stuff, which makes it harder to be, and it's hard to be original in that sense, because you're like, crap, this beat is really great for this particular move. I'm gonna do this move, and my opponent is probably gonna do the move too, because you know what I mean. But that being said, I don't think it's necessarily because it's an Olympic sport, and you don't want it to be because it's dance, so it's subjective.
Yeah.
To be a little bit more objective, you have to have some type of original or a rigid metric that people can kind of go and say, oh, you got 5 points here, you got 6 points here.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
So I get it. It's a bridge, and that's why I didn't mind it so much. I just think that if you're gonna do it though, you got to come with like some of the finalist women and the men, where they were like, I do this for real, and you could throw any type of monkey wrench in the thing. Like, I'm going to be able to perform well because I do this. And it showed. The last few matches were freaking amazing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, but what she did was a reflective of why people didn't want to necessarily do the Olympics.
Yeah.
Why they didn't want to go, because it was like, it's not to say that they did treat it with respect, but the thought was like somebody might not. And so then you have Raygun's performance, and it's like, oh, well, now I feel justified in not going. You feel me? But I think if they would have went, then maybe we would have edged out some of those other people. Because if you had people who are like, you know what, I'm going to showcase my talent here, and then they all came to the trials, because especially in Australia, I think it was only 400 people. The US, way more than that. Way, way, way more than that. Was like, we're going to try out and go. You feel me? And so if you have a small grouping of people, and then a bunch of them were pulled from retirement because they needed more people to make up the numbers. You had people who were like, I don't really feel like doing this because I don't think it's going to be true to hip hop. You have all these other things. So then what you have left is with what you have left it with. And these are the results potentially. Again, she could have done better though. Like, not win, but she definitely could have done better. This was not the moment to try to prove your thesis. It just wasn't, because you have a whole women were there.
That's
You weren't
why I
excluded.
call bullshit in all of her shit. This is why I don't trust her. This is why I don't care for her. This is why I don't like her. This is why I'm like, yeah, stay in the UK. Australia is probably waiting for you at the airport. Because
Terrible.
that's bullshit though. It's bullshit. Like, and maybe I don't know if she's trying to save face and just like say things, but no. That's BS. That's literally like me trying to go to some, I don't know, like con and act like I know everything there is to know about anime, and I legitimately do not, just for the pod. Just for our
Right. Yeah.
podcast. That's bullshit. It is like that. I mean, that's if you are not Olympic material, then what are you doing? And you shouldn't need the Olympics to tell you that you're not Olympic material.
Oh, facts.
Yeah,
Facts.
I feel like this was just so that she could write some more papers, write a book, and I don't know what little small academia circle she is in, where she feels like she's the voice of women in hip hop in Australia or whatnot. But I'm like, I just call foul on that. And
And
I'm
it
like,
makes sense. It definitely makes sense, because you think about it. If the response is so negative, then she can go and be like, "See, I told you.
yeah.
This is what it is." You feel me?
And I'm not a fan. Like, nah, dude.
Yeah. I hope
Also,
that's not the case. I really do.
yeah, but she can't dance. So and look, I'm not sitting here saying I can dance. Both of my shoulders are broke. Okay, I got a bad knee. I'm not sitting here trying to say, but I also didn't go to the Olympics and try to dance. Now, I will say
Facts.
this though. There is somebody, I think it was from the Winter Olympics, I can't remember, that qualified as a skier. They were a terrible skier. They had no business being there, but they did it. I don't know how this person clearly you have a lot of money. But you can go to, and this is also why probably people are saying certain things about her now, because you can get chosen in certain sports, especially certain sports that don't have a lot of people in them.
Right.
As long as you go to whatever qualifiers are required, and you have to go to a certain amount. It's like 10. You have to have played in a certain amount of, like if you were a tennis player, you have to have played in a certain amount of matches for you to even qualify to do something. You don't even have to win. You just have to show up. Not everybody shows for their matches. You can, sometimes whatever.
Well, yeah, that was the same thing in this case. A lot of people didn't have the money to go to Paris for I think it was in November, to actually do the tryout.
Right. So some people do have it, and then they do go. And then, in all honesty, like, I totally get it. I totally get the whole idea of taking a free trip and getting to stay in the village with all these cool ass Olympians, with all these ripped people, and free food. Hey, you know what? I would go too. But what I'm not going to do is that. I'm not doing that. Because I'm going to write a paper and say, this is what my paper is going to say: how I fooled everybody and got free meals for 16 days. How I fooled everybody and got on TV. I'm going to be Daryl. You know who Daryl is. I'm going to be Daryl. Like, Daryl is the best. And I would literally be Daryl for the comedy.
Yeah.
Not so I can go write the paper and publish it. But who knows? That's her bag. So maybe I shouldn't knock her hustle. That's her bag. That's how she makes her money.
Interesting. It's definitely interesting.
I need to work on my mediocrity so that I can make money too.
That's hilarious, because that really only works for certain folks.
It does.
For certain folks. And speaking of stuff only working for certain folks, we want to talk about Marvel versus Beau DeMayo. I think that's how you say his last name.
We didn't do enough research.
We didn't.
We're tired people.
Yes, he was fired. So we all know him from X-Men 97. He was fired back in March, I think, before the first season started.
Yeah.
And it was abrupt. No one knew why. No one knew. He didn't say anything. Disney didn't say anything. Marvel didn't say anything. It was just kind of like, oh, it was like headlines like the main writer or the head writer for X-Men 97 was fired. And that was it. We learned about him through the firing. That was the first time I heard about him, right?
Yeah, we didn't even know him
at all. And so when the show started going on and like it got really big, it was blowing up, he was tweeting. He was, like people were saying, "Oh, this is such a great show," and he was kind of, responding. And I thought people thought it was interesting because he never talked about why he was fired, and he's still promoting the show. So if anything, it's like maybe it was like a, how like directors for the MCU will be like, we had, artistic differences and we kind of separated. It was no big deal type of stuff. So maybe it was along those lines because again, Disney's not saying anything. He's not saying anything. Maybe, and he's still talking about it. Because usually if something happened, you want to distance yourself for the most part. Like, I don't want to say nothing that's going to bring any light to me more so than what's already, here. Right. So then we find out that his name was removed from the second season. So he had finished season 1 and season 2 and had started prepping for season 3 in terms of writing. He was fired before season 1 started, and then season 2 his name was removed. He was also not allowed to go, like not necessarily not allowed. No one reached out to him to go to any type of red carpet event or anything like that. He actually made mention of that on Twitter, right? And so after a while, people started saying, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't say stuff because you kind of got out of this unscathed. Like no one knows why you were fired, but you're talking, and if you say a little too much, then Disney is going to say something. That's just how it is, right? They're going to defend themselves if it looks like they're being unfair to you for whatever reason."
Yeah.
And so a few days ago, he was talking about, you know, he made a tweet or I guess an Instagram post that showed like I guess a gay version of Cyclops or seemingly gay with his face and whatnot, and he was like, "This is why the credits were removed," or whatever the case may be. And he's like, "It's part of a troubling pattern with Marvel. Whenever I celebrate being gay or whatever the case may be, that they have a problem with it." Then and kind of alluding to how he got fired, right? So then Disney clapped back. They were like, that's not what happened. I'm looking at the Hollywood Reporter. They reported about this. Shout out to Aaron Couch and Boris Kitt. And they reported that, Disney was like, no, this is not how that, or not to say, they didn't say no. They didn't say whatever. What they said was, after a investigation, he was terminated. So it's like Mr. DeMayo was terminated in March 2024 following an internal investigation, said a Marvel spokesperson in a statement. Given the egregious nature of the findings, we severed ties with him immediately, and he has no further affiliation with Marvel. So that's kind of rough, considering they use the word egregious. Then it says sources say that following his exit, an agreement was reached between the two parties over the issue of tweeting about the show. And so he was allowed to tweet about the show. We're not going to say anything. You're not going to say anything. I'm guessing they signed an NDA. And as long as he said, I guess, positive things about the show, like he can celebrate and let everybody know that he was a part of the show, but that's kind of it. And with his credit being removed, and him, saying whatever, it's like, oh, something has happened here. He went a little too far, or he made mention of something. Maybe whatever he was alluding to kind of, got things going. And so this part actually is, potentially happened. There's speculative stuff beyond that. There was other media outlets that were saying like they think that it was sexual misconduct is why he was let go. That they was sending risque images to different writers, and he sexually harassed person in specifically. And so, but at the same time, I don't know that source. Like they had a bunch of different places, these smaller blogs or whatever. The Hollywood Reporter is a little bit more, the caliber in the sense that we can kind of fact check them, and they're not going to just print anything. You know what I'm saying? Some of the other places I saw, it was like behind a paywall. It was like, hey, you want to hear the real story? Subscribe to my whatever. I'm like, nah, fam. We need a little bit more than that before we subscribe or whatever. And so, the Hollywood Reporter is saying there's no details for the cause of determination yet. Nothing has surfaced yet. After that, though, DeMayo was like, okay, it's gonna come out. Like, it's, I can't talk about it right now. I'm gonna get off, Twitter or social media, but the truth, will come out. And now people are still kind of being like, maybe you should be quiet because it's if any of this is true, it's gonna look pretty bad. And right now, you've gotten out kind of without any type of, detriment to your career beyond Disney, right? Like, you don't have, there's I guess rumors at this point, but there's no hard evidence that's being shown. You can still get a job. Your name is still in the first season, so you could potentially do something with your career. But if Disney shows something that is damaging, you're pretty much done. Especially being black, you are done, fam. And then people are talking about, like, why hasn't Disney said something to begin with? And I think it's because of Jonathan Majors. This is me being speculative. They already had a sexual harassment case or sexual assault case with Jonathan Majors. He was part of the MCU. They had to change up a whole lot of stuff because of that. And I don't think they want another scandal right now. Like, I don't think they want headlines or whatever. At the same time, they definitely don't want to be in some type of discrimination suit. Like, they don't want that. So they will defend themselves. So I'm just waiting for the ball to drop because I'm curious in the sense of, like, I kind of see his tweets and I'm kind of leery of his tweets because he tweets weird stuff. Yeah. Like, it's funny the stuff that he tweets about X-Men sometimes, but he also tweets some things that I'm like, are you all right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of like, I don't want to like his tweets. I don't want to, you know what I mean? I'm kind of like, let me keep you at a distance till we find out what really went down.
What's
type
going
stuff.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am the same. I don't know what's going on here. I really don't. I'm just sitting here like, I didn't know you beforehand, and I don't know you now. I
Yeah.
just know that the show, like, I really, really like the show, and the show's not perfect. It's really not. Like, I think it's one of those shows that is so great on the surface, and then you have to sit down for a while, and you're like, wait, this doesn't make I mean, honestly, those things popped up every episode. You're like, "Hmm?"
Right.
But it was
Right.
just so good that you didn't have time to really react to it because
Right.
if something weird happened, something good happened.
Right.
And, he's tweeting every episode, he's being really interactive. And I'm like, that's the only reason why I know this man. Like, that was
Yeah.
it. So I didn't know him before and didn't know him. I don't know who he is. But I this is messy. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where I feel like I'm just sitting there, I'm like,
It's
it's
like awkward,
messy.
like, relationship burning in real time.
Yeah, it's
But, like,
weird.
yeah.
Because I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know what's going on. There's these allegations, don't know if they're true or not, and they really can be. They could be. I don't know. And there's obviously some NDAs that were signed, and somebody's not keeping to their NDA.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only reason why people do stuff. Like, if you don't keep to your NDA, then the company comes after you. You have to keep to your NDA. I'm not sitting there saying he's not keeping to his NDA. I'm just saying that
Something happened. Something changed. Something changed. And it could be
happened.
just his name being removed from the credits from the second season that kind of pushed him over the edge. I don't know if that's part of the NDA, like, just leave my stuff intact and I won't say anything type stuff. But I don't think that he is necessarily, I feel like he's in a lose-lose situation unless he can prove something without a shadow of a doubt that Disney Disney and Marvel were in the wrong. I don't think that he's going to win this.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of just not like legal, but in terms of, popular opinion. Like, I don't think he's going to win that because people are still like, you got fired like, I don't think anyone's ever been fired that suddenly without some type of paper trail. Like, even when, James Gunn, they let James Gunn go after like old, I think it was old tweets or something popped up when he was doing the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, or like right after that. And then a lot of people, you knew why he was let go. Like you knew exactly why. Like these tweets popped up, and then it's like, okay, Marvel wants to distance himself. And then after a while, they brought him back in. It's like,
Yeah, because
okay,
they were like, we need you.
yeah, and it's like it was a silly thing to do anyways. And
Yeah.
so,
I don't know what
but
he
it was
tweeted about.
right, but that was like immediate. We know why,
Yeah.
and that, granted he's a director, and that's his name is much bigger than this person, but
Yeah.
you kind of know. Whereas this was like, hey, he's been let go. There's no statements
Yeah.
at all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's, it's like, huh? Like, dang, like that was quick, and like, and he can't say anything, and so you're just wondering. And then with all of these allegations that keep dropping from all these different people, it's like, did he do something inappropriate? That's what people want to know. Did you do something inappropriate that got you fired?
Right.
Because then we don't want to rock with you. That's just what it is. We don't want to rock with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird and awkward right now. And again, I keep seeing people like, they're like, yo, if you just be quiet, maybe. But hey, if he feels wronged, do what you gotta do. I'm just hoping he's on the positive side of this, and not potentially getting ready to be outed for being a creep or whatever the case may be. I mean, if he did it, then yeah, you should.
Yeah, if he did
But
it, then yeah.
I'm hoping that it's not the case where what I'm hoping is Disney did something wrong, or it was a miscommunication between both parties. I don't want it to be that he did something he shouldn't have. I don't want that.
I mean, I said the same thing. I didn't want um Martin Luther Majors to be a bad guy either.
Martin Luther Majors is
And then
hilarious.
and then he's calling women his Corettas all the time. And then it was just like, oh God, I don't know what to do anymore, because I really, 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 really like he was good in all that the stuff that we how long did we talk about that one show?
A while.
Like,
Yeah, but and granted, and this is hilarious. This is a little bit off topic.
yeah.
Hilarious. The the people who are upset that Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to Marvel, and talking about how he had, he had all this legal stuff happen prior. I'm like, fam, do you not understand the optics of what has just happened? Do you
Right.
not understand, for the fact that he was, first of all, this happened years ago, and he wasn't a
Legit.
darling. He wasn't a darling. Like, it took him a while to build his reputation back up to be able to get a Marvel film.
Yeah.
It was alcoholism. It was
Yeah,
stuff that
and
was
drugs.
right, and like the worst thing he did was like fall asleep in someone's house that he thought was his own, right?
Legit.
But then you have a black man potentially assaulting a white woman, and you think that they're gonna let this rock? Not only that, it happened recently, like mad recent. And like they're like, well, this is, everybody else is given a second chance. Like, he hasn't gotten to the second chance stage yet.
It
Like, even
just
like I just said, right? It just happened. Like, James Gunn was let go for a minute before he came back. Like, it happens. If something happens, they're going to distance themselves. And if you can survive that distance, if you can rehabilitate your image, they will bring you back.
they'll bring you
Marvel will
back.
bring you back.
They will. They'll bring back
They will
because they
bring you
need
back.
to. They need to.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a bankable star.
Yeah.
And if what you did isn't so terrible, like freaking Disney, what's that movie? Snow? No, it's not Snow. There's the director of Creepy. Gosh, what is the name of that film?
Uh,
It is because it was a big thing where I believe this guy was a pedophile.
oh,
I think he convicted pedophile and was hired to direct multiple films after the fact.
were children in these movies?
Let me see. Hold up. It was Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers, the director for that. Let me pull that up real quick, folks.
Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers?
Because I'm
That
pretty
movie?
sure if we go to, yes, it is Victor Salva. He was convicted of sexual misconduct in 1988 for sexually abusing. I'm not gonna say the person's name because they were a 12-year old at the time, and they probably don't want that to be brought back up.
Yeah, with that, we don't
Um,
need to do that.
and so this is 1988. After that, this person directed Powder. I said Snow.
Powder. Well, that would have. I should have gotten that.
He directed
Powder.
Powder,
Powder. Yeah.
and that was distributed through Buenos Vista, which is owned by
Buena Vista.
Disney.
Yeah.
So like, and granted, that shouldn't have happened. I'm saying
No.
that shouldn't have happened, right?
No.
But that's evidence that you can kind of come back. Like he's been directing. I think his last movie was in 2017. So like this person was still doing things even after being convicted. Heck, we had a freaking someone who was convicted of raping someone, raping a child, was in
Yeah.
the Olympics.
Yeah, they were in the Olympics. That like freaking recently. The dude off of, was it Seventh Heaven? The dad off, it's the dad off Seventh Heaven, right?
Was it the dad?
I think it's the dad off Seventh Heaven. I think so. I feel like it was him. Like like I was
Yeah,
like, because I remember reading, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You did all this stuff, and then they still let you like do other
exactly.
shows,
Exactly.
and
And
then
granted,
he, I
yeah, and granted, I know that there is a that like black people definitely get the short end of the stick when it comes to these type
yeah,
of things.
yeah,
However, we cannot compare the two. We cannot compare Robert Downey Jr. to Jonathan Majors in the sense that this just happened and it was assault. It
right,
wasn't a
right,
drunken escapade. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not
right,
the same thing. And it was years before he got a role versus this just happened. So
yeah. He spent
it's
a
you got to
while
stop,
going to
people. You
rehab
got to
and
stop.
stuff. Like get at first.
He's gonna
See,
he's gonna get he's gonna be acting still. He's gonna get
how
another
are
break.
people? How are people doing this though? How are people? I'm gonna say it like this just because. How are people comparing? You're comparing apples to oranges, and they might both be fruit, but RDJ made the MCU. We wouldn't
Yeah,
have had the MCU without the success of Iron Man. It just wouldn't have worked. They tried several movies prior, and it just didn't work right. If Iron Man hadn't worked, we would not have gotten. So I'm saying this not like I'm saying this objectively. You were successful in the Loki show. I didn't even watch Quantumania, and from what I heard, Kang got killed by an ant.
by Ant-Man. Yep.
You were in one movie. How does that compare?
It doesn't. It doesn't. It does not compare. The amount of money they're paying Robert so much money, and it's like because he's going to get people in the seats. If we're just looking at this from the optics of bankable and whether or not we're going to be boycotted if we keep such and such around, it's like it just makes
Right,
sense. It's such a no brainer at this point. And that's not me caping for anybody. It's just the
right.
fact that
It
being realistic, this just happened. Like he just was like found guilty. You
just
feel me?
it,
Of was
yeah,
it
of
misdemeanor
it
assault or something like that?
harassment. I think he was found on the harassment charge. The second, yes, misdemeanor assault,
Like second,
something
yeah,
second degree, like something that was, and then he was found not guilty of one of the charges. Like one
yeah.
of them was not, and it's just like look, I wanted this stuff to not be true too, but then you had the worst lawyer in the planet, and then
Yeah,
literally released all of.
the text messages was damning. Like,
I said, look, come on, textbook abuser.
yeah, it's and even the stuff that's happening now in terms of his, trying to make like the award that he got recently was.
I don't know what that was. I don't know what the award was. All I know is that he was crying and talking about Coretta again. And I didn't
Oh
watch
my
it.
gosh.
I just saw him. I saw him crying, and then I moved to the thing. Like I think it was on my Google thing, and then I went like
Yeah.
that. He was crying, and then they shot to Megan Good, and then I was like, "Oh wait, are we about to do Coretta? I can't. I can't stomach it again. I can't." Because the last time he cried and said she was my Coretta, I said, "If you say this again."
Like, did you know the woman? Like, why are you saying the things that you're saying? This is not. I'm just so confused at what's.
And also, how is this a compliment when you are saying these things? Because we know that Martin Luther King was unfaithful. So when you say this,
You're painting a weird picture.
it's
Unless you want people to think that
weird.
you're Martin Luther King, and you are not.
Well,
You are
that's
far from.
allegedly that's why he was dressing in old clothes.
On that note, shout out to everyone who was hanging out with us, listening to us ramble about Marvel
We're
and
just rambling.
Disney and Rayguns and all sorts of stuff. If you dig the content, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you're listening on iTunes or Amazon, definitely add us to your RSS feed, subscribe, all that good stuff, so you'll be up on when we add new episodes to the podcast. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. It just so happens that events are happening in real time that are hilarious that we just want to make mention. That kind of derail things. I didn't think I was going to be talking about breaking on the cast, but
We didn't.
it happens. It happens.
When did it become called breaking? I always called it breakdancing, and it's making me Earl every time I hear people say breaking. And now I could be wrong, and not even I could. Clearly, I am wrong because everybody's calling it breaking. But I am
Yeah.
sorry. Breaking to me means breaking glass. It means breaking bad. It means breaking up. I've never heard the term before the Olympics breaking for breakdancing. It has
You
always
haven't.
been
What about the films
breakdancing.
breaking?
What film? What was it? Was called Breaking? I don't remember this. I had a brain injury 3 years ago. There's a lot of things
Oh
that
my
don't fit in my head
gosh.
anymore. There was a movie called Breaking.
Yes.
I saw a movie with break dancing in it. I don't remember it being called Breaking. Was it a bad movie? Was it the movie with the Jabberwockies in it? Was it the
Wait,
movie
there's a
with
movie with
I
Jabberwockies?
don't know.
What?
How am I supposed to know these
Oh,
things? Was
we.
he in it? If he was in it, then I was gonna watch it. But if this man was not breakdancing with the two swords,
No, it was. Breaking and then Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo. I know you've seen these
no, I
films.
saw Breaking Dawn, and that was a horrible movie.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So since the 80s, breakdancing was shortened to breaking.
Didn't know that.
There's no G. There's no G. It's just breaking with IN.
breaking.
Yeah, but breaking, but there's no G on it.
That's breaking.
Right.
That's not. That's what you do when you're slowing your car down. This is stupid.
I can't with you right now. I can't. Oh man. Again, follow us and all that good stuff. I don't even know what I was saying some stuff and you messed me up with breaking.
I don't
You messed me
remember.
up.
I don't know. My head hurt.
But yes, definitely follow us on Twitter,
Yeah.
the Gamecast1.
Yeah.
We'll be posting some information and stuff like that. And about the show. I'm still trying to get some special guests on. So be in tune for that. If you don't know, we've had a bunch of special guests that have been pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Last one being Jorge. Also, he's been talking about and we're not going to talk about this now, but he was talking about the animation strike that's going on. That is a big deal right now. We're probably going to be talking about that next episode. I want to kind of bring him on to kind of speak about it. But they're currently on strike. The animators are on strike. They're not getting paid well enough, similarly to the actor strike and whatnot. And so I'm all for that because people treat animation like it's some type of redheaded stepchild, I guess, and like it's not important.
Meanwhile,
it is important, very much so.
It gave us House of the Dragon.
Yes, animation is important. So we have some interesting things to talk about. So definitely stay tuned, and again, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're up on all the content because we have some stuff coming. That is it for housekeeping from me.
That's it. Don't be a dick, people. Don't don't be a Raygun. Yeah. So be kind, wash your hands, wear a mask if you need to. That's it. Deuces. We will see you next time. Bye. Bye, sister.